just want to tell you a little bit of an inside story. I was reporting for the National Telegraph. I was on the ground in Ottawa in February, the Freedom Convoy, live streaming at the press conferences. And the next speaker might recognize him as the spokesperson of the Freedom Convoy. But as someone who's in alternative media, we really owe this man a great deal of thanks because he was the one who helped alternative media grow so much. This man made Glenn McGregor throw 4 temper tantrums in a hotel lobby by excluding the mainstream media from the official press conferences. And he showed the world that we don't need CTV, we don't need CBC, the National Telegraph, Rebel News, True North. We can get the message out. Everyone here with the phone in your hand, you can do the work better than Rosemary Barden. And another thing this man did, he won't brag about this, but I have to say it. The government stole all of the money for the truckers. They stole it because they're sharks. The bank stole the money. But this man actually managed to get over $800,000 directly into the hands of the truckers on Wellington. The only person who actually managed to get money into their hands, their spokesperson for the Freedom Convoy, Benjamin Dichter.
You stay here. We're all together. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, the last time I was in front of a crowd like this, it was in Ottawa, on stage, and it was a hell of a lot colder than it is now. This is beautiful. I want to say thank you to all of you for everything that you've been doing. A little side note, during the convoy, for a lot of us, for myself, Tamara, and a few others, it was a very lonely experience for us because we were constantly having people dump problems at us. The police were threatening to raid. It was problem after problem, infighting, disagreements, all that sort of stuff. And every night, before I would go to sleep, which was usually around, I don't know, 12 o'clock, by the time we got everything off our plate, I would go on to YouTube just to get an idea of, okay, what was going on the ground, because at that time I had broken my ankle. And I saw you guys here every weekend reinforcing the values of what we were trying to communicate to the government in Ottawa. And that is the values of peace, love, unity, and freedom. You don't understand the positive effect that had on us in Ottawa with the overwhelming amount of stress that we were dealing with. We were worried about the truckers who were in their trucks, who were being starved of fuel. We were worried they were going to get frozen. And also, what happens if anybody gets violent with any of the police? That's one of the things we were very concerned about. So thank all of you for doing what you've done, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Freedom!
Now, freedom! Last time I did that, I was standing next to Tamara. So these two gentlemen here, not only were they on the ground, but they were in my hotel room. Especially this guy, getting me coffee every morning. So I appreciate it. It was a communal event. Everybody came together around those values, and I think what we're going to see, that over the long term, history is going to judge the Freedom Convoy as a pivotal moment of when Western society started its revival. And it started in Canada. Shortly after I left Ottawa, I left on March the 12th. I got my cast off, went back to Toronto, I got a lift, and I got on the first plane I could get to go down to Miami. Why? Because I was asked and invited to be a speaker at Bitcoin Miami. Why is that important? Because as Daniel explained, the only money that was able to get into the hands of truckers that were sitting there for 3 weeks, starving themselves, the only money that got to them was Bitcoin. And when I got on stage in Bitcoin Miami, I couldn't believe it. It was the only event in that particular room that we had, the stage that it was on, and it was packed. And once Luke mentioned myself and the Freedom Convoy, this room of a few thousand people, mainly Americans, but people all over the world, erupted in cheers and applause for Canadians for leading the way and leading the charge to freedom. And in all my time in the United States, it's interesting. People in downtown Toronto live in a little bit of a bubble. But in the United States, in Florida, and in New York, two places I've been there, everybody knew about the Freedom Convoy and about the truth. Nobody questioned it. One of the many interviews I did was with Jordan Peterson. And we were talking about what the narrative was from the media. So Salman was here, did a very famous video on Twitter of Punchy McGregor, what's his name?
That's CTV.
Whatever, some guy, Punchy McGregor, is a journalist, or fake news journalist from CTV, who was stalking us in front of my hotel room. And when I did the interview with Jordan, I prepared a statement for him because he asked for it. One of the things that I said there is that it's very, very important right now. Not only do we need to demand our freedom, we need to demand that the legacy media and our politicians tone down their rhetoric. That the era of public shaming and baseless sneers and pejoratives is over. The division needs to stop. We need to speak to one another, irrespective of our political disagreements and our political view. And it was amazing. During this convoy, I was starting to go into Twitter Spaces to reach out and talk to as many people as possible because they kept asking me and adding me. I ended up talking to people in the Liberal Party. I ended up talking with school trustees from the NDP, and all of them said to me, you know what, we may disagree on a few political issues and a way to address them, but we all are unified on the principles of freedom, the freedom to think, and the freedom to speak. And during the convoy as well, by the way, I have a book coming out that's going to explain a whole bunch of things and is going to be contrary to a whole bunch of smears that you've heard about myself and Tamara and the rest of us. But one of the things that was interesting was during the convoy, I was just a few days before the police moved in and turned Canada into a banana republic. I was communicating with 33 Liberal members of Parliament who are fed up with the blackface era. They think Junior is a disaster. But if they speak up, they'll be targeted. But they were forming a coalition in their party to get rid of blackface. And then, no coincidence, 2 days later, the police moved in and broke it up. These are all white pills. These are all signs of progress. It gets darkest before it gets light, right? And the fact that now, I'm sure all of you see it as well, the regular normies, the people in our families, in my family, who don't understand why the Freedom Convoy was so important, they're now starting to listen. At least we can now engage in conversations. So that's where we're going moving forward. I think if it was a magic button that we could press and we get one politician in and everything changes, that's not reality. That's not how life works. Changes in government and in broader in society are like doing a U-turn with a battleship. They're slow and they're laborious. And that's why what you have done here every week for 2 years will be recognized as one of those momentous achievements in Canadian history. And you all deserve a round of applause for that. Later on this fall, I have a book coming out, which we just finished. We're doing the last chapter right now. I implore all of you to get a copy of it when it's available. I'm also doing live streams every day. Come in, ask questions, let's talk, because that's what we need to do, and it's not about political affiliation or political ideology. One of the many things that will be covered is all of the behind-the-scenes things that happened in Ottawa. And unfortunately, people who we thought were on our side turned out to not be on our side. And from what I understand, there's some element of that has happened here today. So be very careful of aligning yourself just with a specific political party, of any stripe. You need to hold on to your core values and let those political parties chase you to sell your message. You are in control. The politicians and the political parties are not in control. They haven't learned that yet, but they're starting to become aware of it. I don't know. Language is sometimes vague. So it's difficult at times to really communicate the emotional state that all of us in Ottawa went through, and the amount of thanks and love that I wish I could communicate to each and one of you individually. For me, that's very important. But you have inspired so many people across the country over time to understand that the era of blackface, divisiveness, and name-calling, I just called them blackface and name-calling, it's in jest, it's fun. But that era from our politicians, that is over, and do not tolerate that coming from our political class. Once you hear that, just throw them to the curb until we get the right people who understand our core values of freedom. They may disagree with some ancillary topics here and there, but freedom and identity politics is dead. We just need to bury it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Guys, give it up for Ben. The last time he spoke, Tom and I literally had to carry him through an icy street up onto the stage, so this is much better. And I'm not bitter. He did supplant me as the most hated man within the Canadian Parliament. I'm not bitter about that. Guys, our next speaker has been working